Hey! So, in case you missed my last video, I spoke about being filmed earlier this year for a documentary series called Employable Me about adults with neurological conditions looking for work. My episode aired August 11th, so 2 weeks ago, and there's going to be a spoiler alert, so if you want to see the episode and you haven't yet, you can see the link in the description to my episode on the AMI.ca website. Otherwise, continuing on with the spoilers. I was published in Montreal Gazette. I'm gonna swear, but like the effing floor is creaking all the... Oh my god! The following day, Saturday, the 12th of August, I was published an article that I wrote about my experience working, well, looking for work alongside with the documentary of Employable Me. So what I wrote and what I submitted is very similar. What you can see on Montreal Gazette, and the link in the description, the article that was published. It's very similar to what I'm going to read to you guys. But I'm kind of fond of what I submitted, so I'm going to read that part. I can do that. It's my channel. Haha. La 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 la. It's in my phone. Okay. And now with the lights being so bright, I can't see my screen. That's a problem. I'm gonna attempt to do this with, grace. If I can read it. So, Tourette syndrome is as a performer losing balance while walking a high wire. It's unpredictable, and people watch in awe of it. Symbolic, painted, circus freak tears were artistically drawn on my face. I wore my tics on more than my skin. I wore them in every disjointed step I took, or in every offensive word I tried to swallow, but couldn't. Believing I was employable, despite the twitches and noises bursting from my unwilling frame, was an acquired faith. No one was going to hire the woman who couldn't stand still long enough to finish her act. Random vulgar statements around a child's small virgin ears were never fitting for the description on my resume. Hiring me was synonymous with taking a risk. You'll hear employers boast about diversity and acceptance, but there's no place for that when it comes to a ringmaster accepting someone with Tourette in the ring. After being discovered through my YouTube channel, I was approached by a producer for the Canadian version of a documentary series called Employable Me, about adults with neurological conditions looking for work. I fit the description, and suddenly, the stage lights fit my performance. Suddenly, my Tourette syndrome was what the audience wanted. With cameras in tow, I stood at the beginning of my balancing act. Unknown opportunities awaited. Meanwhile, in the background was the spectacle of this unsynchronized song and dance that was my Tourette. Before leaving the wooden platform was a pep talk from a neuropsychologist. Cognitive testing would show my best attributes for using towards my search for work. The results showed I was average at math, but beyond my age when it came to writing and understanding language. With this proof of my abilities, I was ready to leave wood for wire. The first step across that tightrope was handing out my resume. I walked into a bar while balancing my tics and my competencies. I explained my condition and spoke of how perfect a setting a bar was, as there weren't children around for parents to be defensive of. I was confident that I could properly explain my noises and cussing, and that I would be a good fit for dealing with customers. My feet steadied on that first step on the rope, and two gentlemen sitting at the bar literally applauded me. A surprised grin etched itself permanently into the lines of my features. Bowing out was yet to come, because my act had only just begun. Next, a test of my capacities was to prove my knowledge of spelling and grammar for a proofreading job at a customer service agency. With the experience of 3 published indie books under my belt, I still wavered in confidence. There was no time to pause while waiting for the results. I needed to move forward. A whispered "oh my god" moment was when a one-on-one meeting had been set up between myself and Lucinda Tourette, the editor-in-chief of Montreal Gazette. I was simultaneously unprepared and completely ready. With a piece of writing to present, I met a woman whose success never ruined her kindness. Though presently there are gaps in my necessary continued education in order to become a journalist, Lucinda Tourette made sure I knew that my writing was both beautiful and thoughtful. Internally, I was smiling, but couldn't fathom how to express how I felt. For a person of so many words, I certainly didn't know what to say. A little further across the rope was an interview at a pet store chain called Nature Pet. Although they were cautious about how my tics would affect the animals or my customer service, they gave me a chance to show what I was capable of. I was given a job shadow the next day, where a group of people accepted an aspect of me that others couldn't see past. While covered in the unconditional love of 5 rescued puppies, I wasn't some sideshow freak with tic to them. I was an ear to chew on, a chin to lick, and a lap to bounce on. Tourette syndrome meant nothing to these creatures, and I found a kind of therapeutic state where my tics had calmed. It was time for me to steady my footing. While on my lunch break, I received a message offering me a written customer service job from the same company as the proofreading opportunity. Only hours later, Nature Pet kindly offered me a position. Time itself took a long breath, and the audience waited for me to react. My confidence had grown to a degree I had never thought possible, and I found a kind of peace that went beyond the confines of my twitching body. Making language beautiful was a need as deep as the breath in my chest. I chose the written customer service position and readied myself for that last bit of rope. Taking the wrong step didn't have to mean making a mistake. It only meant I might freefall to safe netting. Some onlookers turned away in expectation that I would fall off my high wire, while others dared not even blink as they watched me go on to finish my act.